Here's Odd, have you accepted the invite? If you watch the YouTube video, then please put a request up now so we can cover. And we'll bring some people. So, Azad, I think you're now co-host now?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good.
All right.
Okay, great. So Azad's going to be hosting today. So if you want to bring up some people.
All right. Who should we bring up? Let's go with
Well,
our regular.
We've got Celsius Loans already. Rowan, how you doing, man?
Hey, Simon, man, I appreciate the passion. It's frustrating for all the reasons you enumerated. And a lot, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people have attacked you, whether they're, Mashinsky defenders or Celsius defenders. And it's like, it's almost like they've, in a sense, like these purple cats and dogs have been rugged because we were sold that GKA was going to be this custodial platform, et cetera, and the whole thing's been sold. And I'm with you. And one of the things that there are actual creditors that are doing real proof of work in the bankruptcy court. One of them's Cam Cruz. He was able to depose the Celsius CEO, Chris Ferraro. I mean, the guy had been a farmer in Ecuador, maintaining his family farm before he came back to lead this restructuring. And we love our family farmers, but you just think about if a company is truly serious about reorganizing, Celsius has a Twitter handle. Maybe Chris Ferraro would form a Twitter handle. Remember right before Mashinsky left, he set up our good friend David Barse and Alan Carr to lead the restructuring. Those are really, and I greatly appreciate hearing from you, Simon, not only as a creditor, but just an OG in the space. But if Celsius was truly serious about reorging, there would be David Barse, there'd be Alan Carr, there would be Chris Ferraro, all speaking directly to creditors about, hey, this is the way this thing is going. So I share your frustration. Just it is peak season for scammers right now. We live in an era of fraud in America. The fact that SBF has not been arrested, the fact that he is in front of major media organizations and there's SEALs in the crowd that are clapping for his responses, it's shocking. And, like you said, you have to flush this out. I appreciate what you're doing on your website. And hopefully, get through this complete total mess. And we'll be on a Bitcoin standard in our lifetime, hopefully. But I appreciate the work you're doing. And it's just, it's frustrating. We would have, I know I speak for myself. I wish you would have got on this UCC to freaking light a fire under some people's asses to take the harder right decision for creditors, vice the easy, sale at the bottom of a bear market. So yeah, it's frustrating, but I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, Rohan. Really appreciate those words. It's just so incredibly frustrating, and I feel so bad for everybody that they put through this scammy game of people have put hours and hours and hours of dedication, put their cats profiles up, and they've backed behind these scammers, and now all of a sudden they're just selling off the assets. If they had accepted me on the UCC, we could have just restructured this thing, got everyone their securities, got everyone their coins, forget about this. But what do they do instead? They just spend tens of millions of our money covering their asses, getting people off and rug pulling all of us, in order to just protect their asses so that they can get the maximum release and string the community along. And then they still come up on spaces and pretend that they're they've got your back. It's just, what happened to our industry? I got in this industry to give, because of Bitcoin, and I just can't wait to get back to that. But I am completely embarrassed for our industry and what's happening here right now. And I just can't wait to get back to, the principles that we created this industry for. Not people to make more fiat currency, but to give people freedom, the ability to own their own money, the ability to spend their own money, and the ability to voluntarily invest and have a fixed supply and generate a wealth effect over the long term, rather than all these short-term money printing, excessive gambling shit that our industry has created. And then, I'm just embarrassed for what's happened, and I just can't wait to flush this stuff out. And the fact that our assets, after all that, why couldn't we just done this months and months and months ago, and then we could have just had the claims in a trust, and then we can take the scammers that did so much damage to so many people, and have a really valuable asset coming after them, if they manage to extract significant personal wealth while they're selling all their tokens on the community. It's just a shit show. It's embarrassing. And after all this effort and energy, I hope that the UCC are listening in, and we get what we're really meant to get, which is our assets, voluntary investment, our coins, and stop applying to the court to sell our assets so that you can cover the asses of the people that scammed us in the first place. Pieces of shit. I'm not talking about the UCC. I'm talking about the scammers that put us in this situation in the first place. Sorry for my passion.
Okay, next speaker is Eric.
No, I've appreciate you having me on, Simon. I been following this a little bit for the last couple of months, and it's always a pleasure to hear you speak. It's an interesting situation as each of these companies, kind of just go through the same shit. They all, almost like we're all incestuous, and now it's like, how do you separate these entities? How do you try and claw back money? Is anyone going to get any money? I think somebody was chatting about it the other day. Like, well, what was the recovery on some of like the greatest thefts and bankruptcies out there, like Enron? I think they managed to claw back like 85% of it, but it took years and years. I don't even think it's even, fully settled and what's paid out. So when you look at this stuff, and you were to, I know it's best guesstimate, what's a realistic quote unquote resolution time on being able to reorg or structure in a way that potentially gets some funds back to investors, if any? And I know we've kind of recapped on this a little bit, but
yeah. So remember, we are crypto short, and if the UCC advisors, again, let's separate. The UCC are just victims like us that don't get paid anything, and have been dedicating incredible amount of time in order to try and get the best result for creditors. So please don't confuse them, because it's the advisors that we're spending our money. And I think that they've put some things across in our favor, but it's just the horse and pony trap show that they put everyone through, which is completely misleading. And if I had my way, the examiner would actually investigate the misleading nature of this Chapter 11 process from that criminal organization, Kirkland, that's probably going to send us a legal letter after this. But it just makes my blood boil. They put everyone through this. Like, it just is crazy. But no, we are going to receive a chunk of our coins back in the Celsius scenario. I wish that they used my equitable haircut strategy. That would have saved some of the estate. We are crypto short. And then we're just going to be selling off these assets bit by bit. Stick it in a trust. They're going to obviously auction everything off. And if we get our way, we will still push in order to use the bidding process in order to get everyone their assets and their securities, and create the technology to voluntarily invest. I just hope that it can be done for Celsius, rather than Celsius being the collateral damage for other Chapter 11 cases. And I just wish that we just used a little bit of initiative in the beginning. But I guess because of all the criminality that was in these things, you have the exact agenda that I pointed out right from the beginning, that Alex and Celsius are not your friends. And they put people through this, and they continue to put people through this because they're trying to cover their asses, and they're not representing creditors. Creditors first is a simple process. And if it wasn't all the shit that they're trying to hide behind these companies, and I know that the UCC, we need to maintain as much of our assets to come after this shit and recover, because there's some very valuable assets that can be recovered over time. Let's make sure that, that at least we've got the technology to distribute to 600,000 creditors. And try and get as much recovery as we possibly can and avoid that Chapter 7 liquidation. Yeah.
Okay, next speaker is Oz BTC.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing?
Hey, Oz, how you doing?
Good. Simon, yourself?
I'm pretty fired up, but still
Yeah.
fighting, pushing. I said I'd stay till
Uh,
the end, and I'm staying till the end.
I do appreciate it. It is about 5 a.m. where I'm located. But no, I just wanted to say thank you for your passion. I'm a very passionate guy when it comes to crypto as well. So, you know, we've seen the wrong people being involved for the wrong reasons, and we've seen what they've done to it. So it's good that, you know, you do get passionate about something that you love, which is the same as me sort of thing. So, as I say, we're all trying to get the best result for everybody here, which is, you know, get us our Bitcoin back, and yeah, let's all move
Yeah,
on
I
from
think
what happened.
99% of us are trying to get the best result for creditors, but there's a still tiny minority and fuckers that are still trying to get the best result for Celsius.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry for my
Again,
swear.
like, not. Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of us aren't involved in the legal side of it. I know you're heavily invested into it. So we don't, 100% know what's going on in that courthouse every day. You fill us in, thank you. So, like you say, there is a certain percentage of Celsius still don't want to let go of the dream they had or whatever else, but you're fighting, and a few other people are fighting to get those assets back under some sort of management, which has a plan and hopefully doesn't do it again to us. So thank you very much, Simon. As I say, you are going to bat for a lot of us, and you've uncovered some of the players in the industry that we all sort of knew weren't here for the right reasons, and that timing with Sam and FTX was, for me, it was perfect. Not good for the industry, but it did get rid of probably the worst player we have in the industry. So
But the thing is, everything we know now, obviously the FTX thing was a complete anomaly. But the Celsius community, the squeezers and everyone, they were the first to identify, SBF being a bad actor.
yes.
And, Celsius was ahead of it. So as a collective community, we've actually had an incredible amount of intelligence that we've had to unpack, despite all of our differences and attacks on each other. And all these different things. But my God, Celsius knew. Not I'm talking about the FTX stuff. Maybe they did, but Celsius knew everything that we know ages ago. And for the last 5 to 6 months, they've just been putting us through this horse and pony trap show. And now we're just trying to unpack everything. It's just like we could have just done this ages ago when we did the Bitfinex, recovery. It was like, put your hands up, say how much you've lost. Now let's put together a plan, and stop trying to cover your asses, because if you give people a good investment or a good security, if you haven't got a bunch of shit that you're trying to hide, then you can just focus on making the best investment possible and focusing on creditors. But we have to play this game of the people that scammed us paying for them to cover their own asses and get as many releases as possible. It's just an embarrassment to the system.
I understand. Sorry, I got cut off for a second. So you're saying that basically Alex and the guys knew, what, maybe about just after Luna they were in a mess, or before Luna?
No, everything we know about Celsius was known ages ago.
Okay, yeah.
And everyone knew that Celsius was never going to reorg. They don't have the licenses. They had an illegal business. They had this, illegal mining operation that they invested in with our money. All of this, if they were just acting and representing creditors, they could have just done. We could have been out of this ages ago. We could have done voluntary investment. We could have done issuance of securities. We could have got everyone their coins back in custody. And instead, we're here selling our assets at the bottom of the market, so that other shareholders can benefit.
Yeah. So I read something, I'm not sure I haven't verified it, that Celsius was still raising funds in February this year. I think about 500 million or something they were raising. And then when I heard about, obviously, our Bitcoin, our collateral, our assets getting loaned out as collateral, I thought, well, why is he raising money and then a month later borrowing another half a billion against our Bitcoin. So I sort of looked into that and went, what the hell is going on?
All right, the examiner stuff all comes out in January, and even people like they're just defending, like they're saying, oh, it's okay that they commingled custody and earn, and the last examination report was all fine. Even though we've got, that's just part one so that they can get through the ownership of property. So that bloody Kirkland and Ellis can hold back money in custody, get it where they own all our assets so they can spend it on their fees, and then, have it where they're holding back money for clawbacks. Like, this is just, oh, sorry. Okay, who's next?
Okay, let's. Sorry for that, OzBTC. We do have quite a few people who'd like to speak. So if we can get one question each, that would be helpful. Let's go with Richard Rangel.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. So I guess I'm just curious now, because the path that it seems we're going down is we're going to auction off all assets and essentially just redistribute the capital and, give everyone a percentage, maybe 50-60% of our coins. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the rest of the process? Like, what is the value that we can potentially go after from this point? If they sell Bitcoin mining, they already sold GK8. I guess, what is the action plan going forward? That's something that I'm not still really too clear on.
Yeah, we're still utilizing the bidding process in order to try and get everyone's securities issued to them that were spent with our money, and so that then people can voluntarily decide if they want to continue to invest, hold their security, or just get the hell out of here and at least have a long-term investment. We'll continue with that process until the end, or someone's going to come along and buy those assets. Maybe there's some kind of mining company, public company that comes along and gives us shares in their company, and tries to give the bottom of the market valuation to the assets or something like that. We'll see, but I will still be fighting till the end to make sure that we do everything we can to get you your securities, and then those companies can put together their business plans, reveal full disclosure, and have people decide if they want to voluntarily invest.
Okay, next speaker is Alan.
Thank you guys so much for holding the space, and Simon, I really appreciate the passion. That's how I've been feeling for the last 5 months, so it's good to hear from you. But I just wanted to touch upon the title issue about the coins. The Celsius UCC is not defending our title rights to our coins, and they I don't know if you had a chance to review their justification for doing what they're doing, but pretty much they're saying that if they do, they're not going to be able to distribute it's going to advantage certain creditors over other creditors. Let's say you held 100% Link, because the estate has more Link, you would get a better recovery. So that's their justification. I wanted to know what you thought about that.
No, their justification, from my understanding, is that they think they're going to lose and it's going to cost too much in order to try and win. So, if you want to try and prove all that, you'd have to go deep into examination, or you'd have to look at the misrepresentations where Alex told us that these coins are legally ours at the same time as the terms and conditions saying that they're not. You'd have to go really, really deep into all that stuff. So they think it's more beneficial for us to just move on, which they may be right. It's frustrating. And so therefore, now, in terms of coin distribution, we know how this goes. We've already seen it with Voyager. You don't get your coins back. I tried to say this all along when I first started releasing the videos, that payment in kind is not what people think it is. It's not that you get your coins back. It's that they dollarize. They take the whole estate. They turn all the coins into something like, if we had our way, we were saying, leave all the Bitcoin as Bitcoin, leave all the staked ETH as staked ETH, and convert everything else into Ethereum or something, and Bitcoin, and try and get it where it's 50-50. And then if we did that, then we'd have at least, you know, a proof of stake play and a proof of work play to try and get rid of all the politics. But the way that it works is that you don't benefit if your coin has outperformed Bitcoin. The entire estate, you know, you have a dollarized percentage of what you get, and then they take all the coins and they dollarize it as well. You can look at the FTX stuff. It doesn't mean you can still receive it in Bitcoin or in ETH. But the calculations are all based upon the total value of the estate and everyone receiving equal share of whatever coins are left.
Okay, let's bring up Anthony.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Simon, how you doing?
Frustrated? How you doing?
Not really frustrated because I kind of was thinking they would do stuff like this. Kind of more so understanding of.
Yeah,
like,
but you've been hanging around, right, with people that have been really pinning their hopes on a reorg.
Yeah, some people have. I never really believed in a reorg. I said always 30% chance or less. That's always what I said.
Yeah, but every time I try and say that we're not getting a reorg, we're going through the bidding process, I've been forced into that process. They create a whole new conspiracy theory around I'm trying to buy assets for pennies on the dollar.
I think they just don't want you to completely shoot down the idea. And honestly, it would be the best situation for you in a reorg because then your shareholders wouldn't lose all their equity, which would probably be a better situation. But yeah, they just don't like the idea, the approach of like, I guess, hey, this can never happen or we'll never support this. That's what I believe. So
Yeah.
honestly, a reorg would probably be the best situation for all of us at the end of the day, if they knew what they were doing. But that's very unlikely.
Yeah, if Celsius were good actors, then yeah.
Correct. That would probably be the best situation going forward. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to get your take on, you know, the GK8 thing overall, your take on a high level of what's your opinion on it.
Yeah, I've got a lot that I'd like to say, but I can't. I'm bound by agreements I can't say. So as soon as I can say something, I'll tell you. But you know, they got scammed by Alex and Celsius, and when you get scammed, you become quite predatory.
Correct. I know what you're talking about as well. So I'm on the same exact boat with you. Yeah, but you validated exactly what I said.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Anthony, we always tend to arrive at a similar conclusion, but in a different way. Okay.
Yeah, we have different approaches on some things, but we come to a lot of common sense conclusions for sure.
Okay, who's next?
Okay, let's go with Phobos. Oh, Phobos. Don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Okay, Phobos is not there. Let's try AE.
Hello. Hi. I'm just curious. What is the is the plan for a VC fund for a managed fund still an option? And if so, what would that look like? Not having GK8, not having the lending business.
Yeah.
My thought is that since they seem to be selling other assets, that they would then try to sell mining. If not, definitely not structure it so that it's in our best interest. And then lastly, how much power do we have to actually implement anything? All right, thank you.
So the benefit of a managed fund is completely out of the window. Rather than following that strategy by selling off the assets bit by bit, then really you're just in a mechanism of how can you distribute those assets rather than having anyone manage them. And so that's kind of the bank to the future traditional model. We'd never have people managing funds. And so, you know, distribution of assets and the ability for those companies that need the funding to be able to raise the funding becomes the next best thing. So, you know, it's kind of like in the FTX scenario. You've got this operation, everyone's trying to recover what funds are left, and then you've got a bunch of assets because SBF went on a spending spree with client money, and then you try and get all those assets, and then you get all of the claims in a trust, and then you have a mechanism for distributing all of those funds in an ongoing business operation because it may take years. So you might, for example, receive a dividend 1 year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. And so there needs to be a mechanism for distributing all of those dividends and funds and various other things. Traditionally, they'd send you a check in the post. I'd much rather that happen using crypto technology, financial innovation. So we've got to make sure that the criminality is not opted out for, and the valuable assets of the estate remain the valuable assets of creditors, and that there's a mechanism for distributing returns in crypto every time those returns come through, rather than you suddenly receiving a 2 cents check in the post or something like that. So, you know, the value of a fund, from my perspective, has been most likely completely destroyed. And so phase 2 is making sure you get your securities and those can be distributed and you get the benefit of the estate in order to try and get a recovery. And rather than having a company that tries to stake and take our stake, and you know, take any of the things that we've invested in, make sure that they go to you and you can get your own stake, and you can get your own funds.
Okay, next speaker is Kareem.
Hey, Simon, thanks for putting this together. You've been really comforting voice throughout this whole process. So it's my first time speaking, and, you know, just echoing the feelings of powerlessness a lot of people have in this situation. I wanted to open a dialogue about ways that people can use tax to their advantage to take control of the situation. And I realize this may not be an option for everybody, but I've been consulting with tax experts in the crypto space, and it seems there is an option, at least for US users, to write off lost funds in these bankrupt platforms and actually get back tax dollars that they had spent in this year and even consecutive years. So I'm just curious your take on tax strategies and using that to recoup lost funds.
Yeah, so it's probably going to have to shift to those types of conversations. So one of the companies I invested in was a company called Recap, and Recap created technology. Recap and the founder behind it were actually a creditor in Celsius. So we've been doing a deep integration into the Bank to the Future platform so that people can manage their tax losses, import all their wallets, import all their securities, and be able to have a process for managing this in multiple jurisdictions. So that's an integration that we've been working on for a while, and we've had lots of conversations with Recap and Dan about that type of technology. And because, you know, he is a creditor too, I'm sure he can put together some really interesting custom solution as a result of that integration. So really early stages, but yeah, you know, Celsius have already hired Ernest & Young. I think that was one of the things that they tried to get past the court approval. I can't remember the status of that. But yeah, tax is going to become a thing. And remember, the 5th item on the examiner's investigation is whether Celsius paid their tax correctly. And so let's make sure that that's not used for the benefit of them. Let's make sure that what they do next is used for the benefit of creditors. Let's not get scammed again, where they try and figure out their own tax beneficial situation rather than figuring out the right situation for us. So I think you're right. The conversation is going to go over there. In terms of powerlessness, you know, the cash bid is a way of circumventing our vote, and so it is pretty shocking. And you know, we can just keep building, keep doing, keep having a voice. But at the end of the day, you know, let's hope that these assets gets distributed to us and we get the opportunity to voluntarily engage in voluntary activity. If not, let's look at the tax situation. Let's maximize that. And let's use this in order to be much better investors and never enter into this process again. Thank you.
Okay, we've got exactly half an hour now. So next speaker is Beth.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Simon, for all that you've done. I know you've been through so much, and I wish to God you could have been on the Voyager UCC. A couple questions. One being, where, Voyager said that they have these funds, some of the cryptocurrency, right? So where is it being held? Is it in cold storage? Where is it? Do you have any idea where the cryptocurrency is? Number one.
Yeah, so I don't know in the case of Voyager because I wasn't as close to Voyager as I was in Celsius.
Okay.
But I know the UCC within Celsius, one of the first activities they did was to ensure that those funds are secured.
Okay.
And so in the current setup at Celsius, they're in Fireblocks, and Fireblocks has become sort of like the industry standard. But Fireblocks is not a regulated business, so you need to have a regulated layer on top of that in order to distribute funds. Otherwise, it will go into, some kind of bidding process in order to have someone like INX or someone like Binance that can be able to distribute those in a compliant way.
Gotcha.
But I don't
And
know
then,
in Voyager. Sorry.
No worries. And then just lastly, just as a tax situation, I just wanted to throw it out there that I work with one of the best cryptocurrency and stock market tax. He actually teaches cryptocurrency tax law. I met him through one of my closest friends. Not that I don't want to name drop it. His name is Marshall Falk. Many of you may know him, football player. But if anybody, he saved me thousands and thousands, 5 figures last year. So if anybody wants his information, just DM me because he's incredible. And thank you for all that you do, Simon. Really, really appreciate all your help. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things we'll do, a whole module on our Retirement Plan B online wealth management program was crypto tax. We had we spent hundreds of thousands on tax advice and stuff, and we brought our tax advisors in. Obviously, we can't give individual tax advice, but we went through every single transaction in crypto. Now let's add Chapter 11 liquidations as well as a new type of transaction, as well as Chapter 11 distributions and securities and coins. But next year, once we actually get back to operating business as usual, once we've been through this process, in our online wealth management program, one of the big modules is crypto tax. Okay, next one.
Okay, next speaker is Chris. Can you hear us?
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you do, Simon. We really appreciate it. And my question is regarding FTX. I had funds on there and I wired some of them out on October 26th and then the rest of my funds out on November 9th, 2 days before they filed for bankruptcy. And I heard somewhere somebody saying that through the bankruptcy process, the people handling the bankruptcy can actually go back to people like me that withdrew a couple days before the bankruptcy and ask that I resend the funds back so that it's accounted in the bankruptcy. Is that true? Do you know?
It is a real risk. So it's called a clawback. And we've been debating it back and forth at Celsius with lots of bankruptcy lawyers. The conclusion we came to is that if a bidder buys the platform or bids on the assets, then you can take the clawback entitlement over to that platform, and they can opt out of doing that clawback as part of the negotiation. And that was one of the things that we've been aggressively looking at, so it doesn't become a thing. Once you enter into fraud claims and Ponzi claims and Chapter 7 liquidations or Chapter 11 liquidations, we haven't got a precedent for it in crypto, but we've got lots of precedents for it in traditional markets, or traditional bankruptcies, rather. So I don't want to fearmonger, but there are defenses. And one of the things that we can look at is those communal and common defenses, because it's going to cause a big issue. The reason that this is an issue is actually it might be different in FTX, because depending on the entity, it wasn't done, it was illegal securities again, because the state regulators were coming after them for not selling their earn and yield products through a broker. If it was done through a broker, then you have what's known as a SEPA liquidation, which doesn't go into clawbacks. Sorry if this is wrong, I've just learned a lot. I'm not a lawyer and don't treat any of this as legal advice. And then if you have a bank that's actually licensed, then you have a different process. But because these companies were illegally operating hedge funds, securities business, custody business, and banks, it put it in a regulatory gray zone, which could lead to clawbacks. But we got to probably try and get it into a safe harbor, and there'll be lawyers that will look to take this gauntlet. I know Plan C, who's regularly on our spaces, he's put together a group around the defenses against clawbacks and stuff. So the best defense from what I've seen is actually get it through the bidding process, and have an ongoing business that can continue to operate. But if you leave it over to the company, like some kind of reorg, and they're just unwinding, then it's becoming a real big thing that creditors will want those clawbacks in order to increase the value of the estate. So it's a real thing. What can we do? If you are in a position where you can afford it, they tend to dollarize it at the pre-petition date, and it will become just like a normal debt collection. And so you might want to financially plan if you can. If you can't financially plan for that, then yeah, this may become something that comes after your credit rating in the future through the courts. We'll see. That will be the next whole battle of trying to put crypto businesses into the same level of protection and ordinary course of business and safe harbors that traditional regulated institutions like Bank to the Future have.
Okay, next speaker is Abhishek.
Hi Simon, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing, Abhishek?
I'm fine, bro. So there was a question by one of a person, was Kareem, and there was a question by Chris. I want to correlate both of them. Firstly, there was a talk regarding tax inspections. Whatever happened, whatever happened in the last 15, 20 days or a month or so, whatever happened with FTX, it was something disheartening, and people lost a lot of money in their hard-earned money into that. It was something bizarre. The thing is, people still they are basically not aware about even they are not more educational about on that, how to go with that, how to go with that loss. Means if we're gonna go with some new bringings into it, still people are unaware about it, what exactly they can do. And secondly, the thing is, am I audible?
You can hear you, yeah.
I'm audible. Yeah, okay, sure. So I was saying something like there was a, you can say, era of something like a boom of FTX. Okay, like someone was saying about tax inspections. They are worried because even the tax inspection teams, they're still in confusion. Even their whole mind metrics got disturbed, that how to go with the proceedings and all, because it is something like a $275 million loss, or you can say $8 billion loss in just few of the seconds of that, which is something a huge number hangs into it. Even the tax calculations and the tax demography, which have the stipulating and synaptic relations
Yeah.
into it,
Let's
they
not
still
let's
have
not go
the.
let's not go too deep into tax, because this is a
Yeah, no,
subject of
no,
its
I'm
own.
just coming on the Chris point, what she was saying. Chris was talking about the wallet and is it the safe or something. But thing is, people still worried, is the cold storage safe in these Web3 areas, Web3 eras or something? And does CoinDCX have the interference, or CoinDCX have the relation with FTX? The thing is, all these things, yeah, we all know that whenever we do something, transaction or something, we have a wallet with something which works on a
Is there
web.
a question? Or
Yeah, it was the answer to Chris' question. Chris was asking something. That's why.
okay, got you. Okay, you wanted to answer this question. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks a lot for that.
Thank you, buddy. So Chris was asking.
Okay, next speaker, let's put on Jeff.
Yeah, hey, Jeff the entrepreneur known as Hey Simon. Great to connect with you, sir. Hey, question, because so I just moved to Miami. I'm going to be opening up a coffee shop music studio, and on my brother I lost to drugs, fentanyl years ago. He was always ahead of Bitcoin way back in the day. He actually told me about you, and I kind of was like, yeah, I became a fan of it. Since then, and being an entrepreneur in Miami now, and really fulfilling my brother's dreams, who's not alive now. I want to, and I don't know how, because it's been 2 years and, watching the market and everything before I open it. I want to be able to trade Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies at like the next Starbucks is the goal. What do you think and I know because you're more in tune with it than me, I'm just a marketer. what do you think the realistics in 2 years that we can actually go in and use Bitcoin to trade, down here in Miami?
Okay, so thank you. So firstly, very sad and sorry to hear your loss. I lost my father this year as well. I know how what a painful experience is. Actually, I lost him on the same day that Celsius decided to pause and admit to the world that they lost everyone's money. Well, they didn't really admit it until a lot later. But Miami is probably one of the most proactive states in the US in order to try and support Bitcoin. So you're probably in the right place for that. At the moment, I still believe that Bitcoin as a store of value is a much, much bigger use case than using it as a medium of exchange. We've still got quite further to go in terms of, Strike and Jack Mallers has done some great stuff in terms of integrating Lightning Network into apps, and we've had the experiments of countries doing it. But the cold hard reality still surfaces that when you have digital hard sound money, it's way more beneficial to spend money that's designed to go down in value, which is dollars, and save money that's designed to go up in value. And so from that perspective, I still think that driving a wealth effect based upon people saving hard money over multiple 4-year cycles and having a longer term plan rather than just speculating to try and earn dollars is the key. And then I still believe that once we can flush out the fake yield, peer-to-peer markets still exist, because the original use case that got me into this mess with Celsius in the first place is that I didn't want to sell some Bitcoin, and I wanted to experiment with borrowing against my Bitcoin. And I think I'm really excited about some of the innovation that's happening on the real yield space, or the layer 2, or the decentralized space, and various other things. So I think it's the best. I think the best use case of Bitcoin is actually generating more people that save themselves using hard money over the long term, and then building all the technology that allows people to, spend their wealth in a similar way to what was originally tried to do, but everyone blew up with all this fake tokens and money printing and flywheel Ponzi schemes from the class of 2017 money printers.
Okay, next speaker, Babywell.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for all your work. I just have a couple of questions. I'm fairly new to the space, so I'm not quite updated as much as I would like. But in terms of, I'm a Celsius customer, and I was just wondering what's going on in the collateralized loans that I did, how that's going to work out. And second question is, I still haven't filled out my claims yet. So is this something that I should be doing, or I should be waiting? I'd just like to get an answer on those couple of questions from you.
Sure. Okay. So with the loans, we spent a lot of time with all the key people in the loans ad hoc groups and listened a lot. And we put together several solutions. Unfortunately, we can't discuss all of those because we're still involved in some of the ongoing processes with Celsius. So we still have lots of ideas of what we would do with those, and how to make sure that those work for the benefit of those. So I can't really discuss all of those, but as soon as I can, I will. But that's the first one. What was the second part of the question? I forgot.
Hey, Simon, if I could just hop in real quick about the loans.
Yeah, go for it.
The claim form. Yeah. Hey, for the person that asked about the loans, we're trying to work a deal that is going to be beneficial to all creditors, to borrowers that have active loans, and that people that are earned, so that we're not taking any money out of the estate. We're trying to work a creative deal, and there will definitely be more to follow in the coming weeks and months. For the claim form, I have an issue with the claim form because the form is completely outdated. There's nowhere to list that defrauded, illegal liquidations of loans, being misled by false advertisement, an illegal bank, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the pin post that I have. we're planning on talking with Kirkland and Ellis and White and Case that the Stretto claim form needs to be updated so that people can make their appropriate claims for whatever it is, been scammed, etc. And I think that Kirkland and Ellis and White and Case are going to get the understanding that there's a lot of creditors that are very, very pissed off. And depending on how this case goes, that there's going to be they're following this after the whole bankruptcy is done. Like if it's not done correctly, there's going to be charges of fraud, fraudulent inducement, consumer fraud, misrepresentation, unjust enrichment, breach of contract, aiding and abetting conspiracy, and breach of fiduciary duty. So none of that, you're not able to put that in the proof of claim form right now. And just as Simon says, Celsius is not your friend. What Celsius is pushing out in regards to the claim form is, hey, if your claim is good on the schedule of financial affairs, you don't need to fill out a claim form. Well, I talk, every week with people who were liquidated on their loan between the halt and the declaration of bankruptcy, people that truly got screwed over when Celsius went radio silent. There's a lot of truth in lending laws, and there's specific laws related to lending that was part of the reason why the borrowers retained legal representation. But the reason people have asked me about the claim form, it's due January 3rd. We're looking at potentially pushing that date back. Celsius likes to push all their deadlines back, but then they expect creditors to have it done by January 3rd. We're looking at getting an updated claim form and potentially a later date so that if people do feel they've been defrauded, that they can also put that on their claim form. But thanks.
Thanks a lot for that, Rowan. So hopefully he's pinned some links to the top, and you can, if you're not involved in all of the coordinated activity with lenders, make sure you're involved in, borrowers, make sure you're involved in those. I also just want to say that I think we were all pissed off all along, and we were all working on constructive plans until this silly belief came along that Celsius was our friend. And as soon as that came along, everybody started, changing narratives in order to suck up to an organization that never had our interest in mind. And therefore that created, creditor on creditor wars. And I really, if you're in the FTX one, I want you to be really mindful of this. That you could be unified right now around, SBF scammed us. And then suddenly you can end up with an implant of a doubt, which is exactly what happened in the Celsius situation. You implant that there's a chance of a reorg, and then everyone starts fighting with each other and questioning each other's agendas rather than be commonly aligned around, creditors first. And also this whole custody versus earn stuff was a deliberate strategy in order to get Celsius to own our coins and put us against each other with the hope that a smaller part of the community could get all their funds back. SBF has already done that. He's already started to pin US versus non-US versus Japan. So he said, yeah, Japan is fine. I don't know why it went into Chapter 11. It was completely liquid. US is fine. And now all of a sudden, everyone's going to not focus on SBF. They're going to be involved in an inter-creditor war between those in the US, those in Japan, and those outside US and Japan, where all those outside US and Japan are going to feel shafted. They're all going to start hiring lawyers in order to try and, do this. And these games are just prisoners' dilemmas in order to take the attention. It's like Mijinski right now, absolutely lapping up everything that's happening to SBF to find an opportunity to start coming up and divert attention away from him. Because that they try and find someone that committed a bigger, is a bigger piece of shit than them, to divert attention. These games are all coming, and I want to try and give content each week so that people can prepare for these games, because it's always the scammers that are playing these games, paying the top lawyers in the world in order to give them strategies that we're paying for. It's an absolute piece of shit, and we need to expose it and use financial technology in order to, really focus on creditors rather than fighting each other. There's so much that's been learned over the last 6 months that everyone else can learn from. where all these different creditors were trying to discredit each other based upon the games that were being played around these fake reorganizations and pony and track shows and just bad actors coming back and trying to divide creditors from getting the best result for them so they can cover their asses and scam again. Pieces of shit. Next.
Okay, we've got 8 minutes. Let's try and get 3 quick questions if we can from, let's go with Daylong, then it's David, and then we'll go with Paul.
Hi, Simon. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Hey, Daylong.
How you doing, sir?
You've always wanted me to be less Mr. Nice Guy. Are you proud?
Yeah, I love it. It's coming out today.
New York. It's my New York
yeah, I
coming
love
out.
it. I love it. I love it. Did I hear correctly? And I'm certainly not. First of all, your patience is incredible. Did I hear correctly that the plan to create a fund on your end is no longer viable, or did I mishear that?
Yeah, no longer viable. We're just going to be fighting to give everyone their coins and everyone their securities. So Celsius bought a mining operation with our funds. They're going to want to sell it. And we're fighting to make sure that everyone becomes shareholders and then they can voluntarily invest rather than be forced to invest in it if
So
they
your
choose.
original plan of creating a fund to disperse the assets over time and recreate the company is still alive if you win the bid?
Yeah,
if you
no
win.
funds needed. This time it's just asset by asset. So distribute every asset.
Okay. So
a mining company, I believe it was paid for with our money. We should be the shareholders. And if it needs funding, then that should be full disclosure. So we stop fighting with each other about is it profitable, isn't it profitable, with stupid messages. But you get full disclosure like a securities offering. And then those that want to get some of their funds that they've got back in custody, if they want to reinvest in it, then we got the technology to allow for that.
I personally would 100% do that. And I'd love to see the smaller investors, because again, it's just my guess. If you have $20,000 or less on the platform, it's very likely all your money, and I feel terrible for those people. I really do.
Yeah, we shouldn't be punished for these rather than punished for leaving as opposed to rewarded for staying. It's a big difference.
Absolutely. And when you met with TZ, he's going to write a check. We're all good. You can confirm that now. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
No, I did meet with TZ, and he has put together syndicates. But again, it's the dynamic of the bailout is the worst investment you could make. So why would anyone else pay for Mashinsky's criminality
We need a
versus
bailout.
going into the bids and then getting a much much better deal? So the bailout is dead. It's why you've only got 2 options: it's the bail-in or pennies on the dollar. So distribute the equity to creditors, or give all our assets to the predators. And Celsius so far has chosen give all the assets to predators. Why? Because they allowed us to pretend that we were reorging pieces of shit.
I just, I hope you. I don't think that I want you to be wrong. I think you want you to be wrong. Is there any chance that you are wrong? I don't. Does that make any sense? I'm not doubting you in any way. Is there any chance that this is just an anomaly? What happened this morning?
These assets are being sold.
Oh, it's 100% sure that everything's going.
In my opinion, I can never be 100% sure, but these assets are being sold, and there's 2 ways of bidding for them. Use the bidding process in an innovative way where creditors get all the shares, or sell it for cash so that their shareholders benefit. I'll fight
Which is
for
what
the
happened
first.
this morning. Which is what happened this morning. Okay. All right. I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you, sir.
All right. I think that's the last question.
We've got one more.
Okay. I'll do the last one.
Yeah, let's bring on David.
Hey, thanks so much, Simon. You are fired up today. Hey, throughout this whole thing, I've tried to keep up to speed. Frankly, I haven't been able to keep up to speed. It's kind of discouraging hearing what you're thinking today, but here's my question. Can you estimate, Simon, kind of what the haircut percentage you think is going to be there? Obviously, that may vary based on if it's bidding or there's a reorg, but can you estimate when this is all going to be done? When people can get whatever it is that we're going to get back?
Yeah, well, it depends if they do the equitable haircut strategy or they follow some other strategy. Interestingly, if you hold funds in custody, if they win the battle that the property is theirs, the custody is actually short. Like they've published the figures this week. The custody is short 2 million cell tokens. And so if it turns out that the property is theirs, then you should return it in the exact property that was received. So there's probably 2 million cell tokens to hit the market after that one. And you obviously can't convert them if it's their property. So we'll see what the outcome is there. But I think, in terms of the coins, we're building some technology so that we can have real-time estimations. So if you connect your Bank to the Future account to your Celsius claim, just to be clear, it's just for information purposes. And we're building out an algorithm whereby it will track that in real time based upon the different coin prices, so that people can get an estimation of where it actually is based upon the coins. And then if they sell additional assets, then making sure that there's a security where when those assets and legal claims pay out, that everyone can receive those funds and it can be distributed across all creditors. In terms of what it is, I think we need to be preparing for again, Celsius keep extending their exclusivity. They're trying to play all these different games. The bidding process is now. It feels very close to Christmas. I was feeling pretty Christmassy. So we'll see what happens as a result of these. But hopefully, if a new bidder comes along, those funds can be distributed in a reasonable time frame into custody within Q1 of next year. And then the assets, if they're distributed rather than sold for pennies on the dollars to other shareholders, then you could expect that to be a constant flow of returns, dividends over the 2 to 3 years. And hopefully there's some really valuable assets in retrieving funds from the people that scammed us in the first place.
Hey, Simon, I just got to say thank you so much. The community needs your voice. I see these tweets from Celsius. I can hardly look at them. But thanks for being a sane voice out there. Really appreciate it.
Okay, really appreciate you. As I said, still working through the process. I'll still fight for everyone to have their coins in custody and everyone to have their securities in custody, and for everyone to be able to voluntarily invest. And no matter what happens at the end of this, when we come out on this, the other side, we're going to make damn sure that we're doing everything we can to support all the people that have been with us on this journey in trying to rebuild their wealth and understand how to build a longer term plan and not fall for this shit that we all fell for. So always remember, you're alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. Some are going to get really hurt. Some are hurt now, and others are going to do really well. So let's make sure that we get our assets so that we can have a solid foundation next year to rebuild and get back to the basics and root of what our industry actually did. We weren't here to extract value like traditional fiat currencies designed to go down in value. We were designed to bring digital hard sound money and benefit people, companies, and countries. And that mission still continues because Bitcoin still gives you money you can own, money you can spend, and money that has a fixed supply. And there's a lot to be rebuilt. I've been through these cycles many times. I've just never seen so much leverage and shysters and scammers. In each time this industry grows, we need to flush them out, rebuild stronger, and get back to the roots. So I hope that you stay with us in this industry because this technology is important, especially with what's happening in the traditional world. As I said, we'll keep building that technology and try and support everyone.